There we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Future Glimpse. I am Kathy Hackle, your host. I am a futurist and avid AR, VR thought leader, and I love talking about everything future, everything that's going on. And I am joined today by my friend and former coworker. We need to talk about that at some point. Keisha Howard and her kitty cat in the back.
Hi, Kathy, and thanks for having me. Like, this is great.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to have you. And you and I actually know each other. We met before you joined HTC Vive, but we worked for it was a couple of weeks. We were colleagues at HTC Vive.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things I have to say is that when I was first going into VR, you gave me like such a great like sort of foundation of like what to expect and how exciting it was. So I still appreciate that we were able to remain connected all this time. So, but like, yeah, it was a interesting time working with you and HTC. It's still interesting, just like the
Hmm.
whole VR landscape in general.
Yeah. I mean, it's I feel like it's evolved. You are, I know you're like one of my go-to gamers. Like you're very much in the gaming space. You've built kind of a brand for yourself in that space, pushing for more women in gaming, more diversity. Maybe tell folks a little bit about what you do at Sugar Gamers. Because yeah, you worked for Vive and you're doing some awesome work right now, but you're also the founder of Sugar Gamers. And that's at the heart of what we're going to be talking about. So
Nice. Well, I started that company 11 years ago, during the last recession, actually, in
wow.
2009. And I was working in high-end luxury real estate, like skyscraper type, luxury homes and
Mhm.
condos. And I thought that, because I was so young when I had started that career, I thought like, oh, the economy just you work hard and it just goes up like this, and you just never dip. It
It just
never,
goes up.
it just
Keeps
goes
going.
up. There's like upward trajectory. And so I was in for a interesting learning experience during the last recession. And it kind of took me back to my foundation, my roots.
Mhm.
And I've always been a gamer. I've always loved games. But I look at games in a different way from, I think, a lot of people. Games
Yeah.
almost sort of raised me. With my two
Mm.
older brothers, so many of my most important formative moments were with them while playing games. Like, an
Wow.
example of this is my older brother sort of made me read out loud when we played Final Fantasy 2. So I had to read all the parts, and then he would read parts. And when you're 10 years old, that really helps your reading comprehension. It helps, for you to, you know, um, get comfortable just sort of speaking out loud. And I was a really
Yeah.
kind of shy kid. So Metal Gear Solid sort of taught me critical thinking when I had to beat Psycho Mantis. In gaming in general, kind of taught me how to fail and
Mhm.
do sort of trial and error and be comfortable with what that is. So, anyways, I started Sugar Gamers 11 years ago because I just was shocked that I couldn't find anyone like myself represented in the video game space. But I knew so
Wow.
many, I thought there had to be women that loved games. And again, this is back in 2009. So this is pre Gamergate. This is pre a lot of
Yeah.
the conversations that we've been having. So sometimes when I say it, it sounds antiquated. Of course, we know that women play games and women are
Mm.
capable. But that marketing and that messaging was definitely not there 10 years ago. And I wanted to be a part of something that included women, people of
Mhm.
color, and a conversation that went beyond competitive gameplay,
Yeah.
because esports is important, but I look at video games as an art form.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Like, you have such a fascinating story. And by the way, we got folks, I asked folks to tell us where they were joining us from. This is Atlanta, upstate New York, France, San Jose, Costa Rica, UK, Boston, Colombia. So we got like everyone that's awake right now.
Right? That's
So,
awesome.
so hi, hello everyone. So I love your story. I love that you created Sugar Gamers for that, and that for me it's like so awesome to see that positive experience of gaming, because I'm a big proponent of gaming as a way to prepare children to solve problems,
Oh yes.
to, exactly, to fail but come again and keep repeating and then try to win and try to get better at it, instead of seeing it as, they're locked in a basement all day. Like, I think obviously our concept of gaming has changed a lot, through the years. So maybe tell folks a little bit more about some of the things that you're seeing, obviously, because you've got, I mean, gaming is such a massive monster. I mean,
Yes.
esports is a huge part, right? Everything that's happening in gaming, Stadia, Fortnite, like it's such a massive monster. Maybe tell folks, what are the top 3 things that you're seeing right now with gaming that are really impacting you?
Well, definitely the esports conversation. So, gaming as a
Yeah.
$150 billion industry, it's now being taken seriously. Everyone's looking at it, especially now during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, what are we going to do to stay at home and connect with people and have a community and have fun? We're going to pick up our digital game worlds. So, with that being said, video games are now starting to be looked at as more than just this entertainment for young kids.
Yeah.
Is looked at is being given a bit more of a closer look, which I think is very important. However, I think that in our mainstream media there are some conversation topics that aren't as prevalent as I would like them to be. Like esports is all about winning, competition,
Yeah.
money. Like how much did that teenage boy win when he won the Fortnite competition? $3 million. Now, there are parents who are paying for
Hmm.
coaches for their kids to be a pro gamer, or paying for equipment so their children can be professional streamers and streaming personalities and marketable in that way,
Yeah.
as it pertains to games, and that is great. However, that is a sliver of this $150 billion plus industry. It's just a small sliver, and I think that we're missing out on a lot of very compelling conversations as it pertains to the video game industry by focusing in on just
Just that
the
part.
competition and just the esports, which is important, and I'm not
Hmm.
diminishing the importance of that conversation, but like there are so many different types of games and types
Hmm.
of gamers, and which is what makes the video game industry so compelling, is that the diversity of types of gamers. There are some gamers that like competition, but then there's some gamers that like puzzles. There's some gamers that like
Hmm.
design, and that's what pushes them through a game. There's so many different components, so many different types of people, that I would love to see more conversations explore that as well. And like the intellectual merits of gaming that come
Yeah.
along with other conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember when I read this, but I read something that um, students that were gamers, when, let's say, they went on to medical school, and students that had been gamers or really enjoyed gaming, had, seemed to have a better skill when it came to surgery and practicing surgery, because they were very used to, using the controllers, but also kind of that concept of paying attention to a lot of small details, making changes fast when needed, that sort of thing. So what are you thinking about that? I mean, for me, and come here, come here. I want you to say hi. This is my little gamer right there. He's making
Hi,
an
little
appearance.
gamer. Oh my goodness.
What
Adorable
games?
young
What games do
man.
you play? Tell folks, what games do you play? Roblox, Minecraft.
That's
All
awesome.
right. Yeah, you made a little appearance. Okay, honey, you can go. All right. No, you can't have it. He wants my phone to play Roblox. So
Of
anyway,
course.
guys, yeah, thank you. It's, it's living in the pandemic. We gotta, working at home with the kids. But that was perfect because, he's my little gamer. My daughter as well. Like they love playing all sorts of video games. And you might find this interesting before we get into the whole, gaming as a way to train people. He, like, I was asking him and his sister what they, their thoughts on Roblox, and they said, I said, what is Roblox? And they said it's a community. They didn't say it was a video game. So that resonates with your experience and what you've been doing. But let's talk a little bit about gaming and training, etc. And we'll talk about community as well. And by the way, guys, sorry, Keisha. By the way, anyone that has questions for Keisha, please, put them in the comments. I'm going to be reviewing them, and we'll hopefully get to some questions because I'm sure folks are going to ask. You have such an interesting backstory that I think folks are going to be asking questions. So let's do it.
Awesome sauce. Well, it's interesting you brought up like gaming and surgery. Here in Chicago, we have a company called Level X, who I've been following closely. And actually, I met with them when I was working with HTC because they use a lot of VR products.
Oh.
So essentially, they're making games for surgeons. One of the games that I played was removing polyps from a colon, which sounds and looks pretty gnarly, but that's like so interesting that all of this is a simulation. I mean, all games are in whatever capacity that you look at it, all video games are some sort of simulation for some sort of real life activity. At least that's how I look at games. So to simulate something before you have to like commit to it, sort of practice the failure, the trial and error, the getting an understanding of the information that you're consuming is important. And Level X is definitely a example of how they're making games. They're a gaming company, but they're making it for a specific purpose so that people in the medical industry can like practice and feel more comfortable with what they'll be doing in real life. So it's the training on it is amazing. There's so many ways to look at games that even aren't necessarily for educational purposes and deconstruct them in such a way that you can have a conversation about how they're enriching. And it doesn't matter what game that is. There is something to learn from every game, in my opinion.
What are you playing right now? Are you playing Animal Crossing? Like everyone,
I haven't even
Fortnite. What are you playing right now?
So I am not one of those people who have to play like the new hotness right away. Like I don't mind, and I like I'm old school, so I kind of, if I'm not playing a couch co-op, I like playing games by myself. So, it's one of the things that relaxes me is escapism. I like narrative driven games and puzzles. So the last game that I played is a game called Hollow Knight. And it was a game.
Okay. What's it about?
It's a platformer on the Nintendo Switch, and basically you're a bug that has to explore this whole sort of world that has different terrain. It's a beautiful game, and it's a lot of critical thinking, a lot of discovery, a lot of adventure, a lot of like sort of discovering new things by exploration. And so you have to be a little patient, but it's very gratifying and rewarding for your patience and for your exploration. So, and you're in all these different colorful environments, from greenery to like crystals, so on and so forth. And it's just a nice bit, very similar to Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you can just immerse yourself in a world filled with fantastical forests and caves and so on and so forth. So like when we're stuck at home, I want to escape to a world in which I'm outside and interacting in that way. And it's not like taken away from me. Like, I wish I was there in real life. Like, it's not real. It's imaginative. So Hollow Knight is the last game I played. I am playing Doom at times. It's like, which is a 1-player FPS. So I'm not worried about people being like, like as soon as I spawn, someone is giving me a headshot. So like that's not fun to me. So yeah, I mean, I still play games, but I play them. I tend to play them by myself, and I don't stream. So a lot of people
you should be streaming. You'd have such a cool audience. Oh my goodness.
I'm on Twitch, and I will start streaming. The company I'm working with now, Live CGI, has some really interesting software in which it's going to make streaming a lot more compelling for me. But for the longest time, I've been resisting it because I'm a little bit introverted as it pertains to that. So
I still can't get over that. You're like,
no one believes me, but
I had no idea until you said that earlier before we were live. But I want to get to some of the comments that folks were saying. They were saying, games are the next social media or the future of social media. Also, is Fortnite going to become the new internet? What are your thoughts on everything that's happening in Fortnite, like Travis Scott? I actually wrote an article in LinkedIn about how it's accelerating virtual presence. But what are your thoughts? Like, yeah, I mean, how do you see
I,
it?
I love how Fortnite is a platform to experiment with a lot of ideas, but the audience is still very young.
Hmm.
So I was speaking to it is a great sort of platform to look at how people are communicating now, how the youth are creating their communities, how they're connecting with one another online in these virtual spaces. I think it's very compelling and very
Hmm.
important to keep an eye on. However, like I was speaking to an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, and I was like, hey, do you play Fortnite? He's like, I do, but that's kind of old. And I'm like, what? And I'm
Really?
just like, at 19, and he's a pretty, popular streamer as well.
Hmm.
And I was like, at 19, that's old news. He was like, yeah, that's not what we're on anymore. We're on other games. And I'm just like, wow. Like, I think a lot, he was mentioning Valorant. So
Hmm.
that's like the next game that everyone's on. But I think that Fortnite is a great sort of story to look at, but
Hmm.
it's not going to be everything. And it
Yeah.
can't be everything. It shouldn't be everything. But I think that it is sort of an example of what could be and how we
Hmm.
can connect. I think that it's not necessarily for all audiences and age groups, and there are more games that need to reach millennials, Gen Zs,
Hmm.
uh, Generation X, whatever your age group is, no matter what where you are in life,
Yeah.
there is a gaming community for you, and that gaming community isn't just going to be Fortnite. So I don't know if
That's a good point.
like, yeah, Fortnite can only become the internet if it encompasses all these audiences, which, in my opinion, it hasn't just yet. Like, yeah, it's definitely made an impact on how we talk about games, how seriously we
Yeah.
take games, so on and so forth, how we look at communication, how we look at community. But I don't think it's the going to be the end all be all.
That'll be all. Oh, that's really, I mean, that's super interesting. What are your thoughts? I mean, you're doing some really interesting work. So with live CGI, maybe what can you share? Like, I know you can't share necessarily everything, but what are some of the, like, what can you share about what you're doing? Like,
Well,
is there any sneak peek or anything? Like, is there
oh,
anything you can share? I don't know.
absolutely, absolutely. So the software that we've been working on, just in my opinion, sort of democratizes technology in such a way that it gives everyone access to like a virtual space or a virtual
Hmm.
avatar. And that's something that, gamers really understand
Yeah.
and people in production sort of understand. But like right now, so you already know about the uncanny valley. You already
Yeah.
know where VR and AR can go. So instead of purchasing or buying into a whole traditional production studio where you have to have a brick and mortar space, green screens, lighting, cameras, people who have the skill to work all of that equipment, you have to drive to that location, so on and so forth. What if you did it all in CGI? And the Unreal Engine and
Hmm.
different video game engines allow for that to happen in such a polished way. And now you can like be in a very sophisticated, polished studio that can produce, high production value content without going anywhere.
Hmm.
And because it's in CGI, your imagination is unlocked. It doesn't have to fit into the box that most production
Hmm.
studios fit into, because you can manipulate it in any way you want because it's a virtual world.
Yeah.
So that to me is super compelling. So we've worked with different companies from like Adidas, NBA All
That's
Star,
great.
NBA 2K. We've been making like all these different kind of studios that like create a situation for brand continuity, and then the person that's in the studio can be an avatar, like so they can be whatever they want. So instead of, you know like while we're talking about
Yeah.
digital humans, like the whole Travis Scott thing was really interesting because it wasn't it was a digital version of Travis Scott that could be the whole world in Fortnite. Like he could be as big or as small, or he can be, you know, any outfit. He could be doing any mannerisms. Like he could replicate himself. It was, you know, it was amazing to watch. So like, what if, you know, we all had access to that sort of way of expressing ourselves? Like I would love to just like get up and just have my avatar talk to everyone instead of like putting on any makeup. An avatar that never ages or looks tired or you know anything. So you could
have to get the roots done because we've been in captivity.
Exactly.
I mean, in quarantine, it just feels like captivity.
So like you could be yourself in this virtual studio. You could be a CGI avatar. You can, you know, have like a sort of a green screen, sort of put yourself into the studio. And like the possibilities have been really, really exciting. And, you know, right now we're all in these like sort of boxes as talking heads. So that gives us a little bit more creativity and a little bit of power to differentiate ourselves from the other types of sort of productions that are currently available, especially now. But if anything that this whole situation teaches us is that we don't have to, you know, stick with the status quo of everything that we've done to move forward and progress. We can innovate now, and we can actually put time and energy toward new ways of doing things. And that's pretty much what I love most about live CGI, because they're encompassing technology that's usually in video games, and then we're able to, you know, stream it in real time to AR, VR, flash screens, whatever it needs to be. And it's awesome. I'm glad to be a part of it and learn so much. You know, like I'm just learning a lot.
We got a question here. Do you think that audiences will move around more as new games come out, or will they lock into games similar to how we see it with social media, i.e. Snapchat in Gen Z, you know, FB is for all millennials, that sort of thing? Do you think it's going to be something like that or a little bit different?
You know, I'm not necessarily sure, because like, you know, looking at what's that law called, Moore's law, where technology becomes more accessible, easier to use. Like, you know, the technology that we've used in the last 10 years, like, or last 10 years, last 15 years, we have went from MySpace to wherever we're at now.
MySpace,
right?
Like
you know, but like, real talk, that's been like a pretty short period of time with everything that we've been exposed to, we've had access to, that we use to communicate, to create community. Some of those things have worked, some of those things have died, some of those things are more powerful than ever. So I'm not really sure, and I think that we're all sort of looking for what is going to be next. I think that as we understand that even if you're just like a horrible human being, right? Horrible human being, and you don't care about diversity or inclusiveness or anything, great. If you still want to make money, the most universally compelling product is what is going to, you know, be a hit. Like, for example, Amazon. Like, it doesn't matter who Jeff Bezos is, because we're all probably going to use Amazon, and it's what it is, you know? So I think that whatever product comes out that like touches all of us, and we can see a need in all of our lives to use it, that's where we'll be. And I don't know if that platform has been created yet. And I think there's still a lot of room and a lot of space for more to be sort of examined, more to be created. And I'm excited about that. That's why I'm in technology, because there's no sort of ceiling here. As long as you have the intelligence, the creativity, the support, you can do a lot of different things, especially with everything that we have access to now.
Yeah, I would say the closest thing that ever gets to that, I mean, some level, would be WeChat. Just having spent time in China, like everything, you stay on WeChat a lot, and you do a lot of things on WeChat. You know, but not from necessarily from like, it doesn't do all, but it's like a super app. It's like the only app that I've seen where people do a lot of things in the app continuously, instead of jumping from one app to another. But we do have a question. do you think that wearables enter more into these games? Fashion designers creating skins, AR, that sort of thing. So do you think that, what are your thoughts?
I hope so. I think that my theory is if we put more effort and energy into wearables, we can actually have more sustainable fashion.
Mhm.
It could actually end up being more green because we buy less because our clothes serve more function than just,
Yeah.
clothing us and styling us. Like if our it has some sort of connectivity to the internet or helps us
Hmm.
solve problems in some way. I think that there's a lot of potential in wearables. I think there's
Yeah.
even more potential as it pertains to wearables in games, especially after working in VR and AR. It's like,
Hmm.
whoa, the things that you can do when you can get data from the components on your body.
Yeah.
There is a significant amount of information there that is very valuable to the consumer and to the manufacturer of these products that are
Yeah.
getting this data. So I think that wearables are definitely going, or they need to be looked at a little bit closer. I think there's so
Yeah.
much opportunity there, whether it's in games or not. Like I just bought a game like last year with the Ring. It's like Ring Fit for
Oh
Switch or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Super fun, and you wear a couple of things, and
Hmm.
you feel like you're really. This is very engaging game, and that's not even the latest and greatest of wearable technology. So it's all interesting, but I for one, from what I've seen, think that there's a lot of potential there that is still somewhat untapped.
Yeah, there's a question here actually kind of related. It says, what are your thoughts on the games industry linking to health and well-being? You mentioned escapism and outdoor environments while we're stuck indoors. Like, what are it's kind of related to the wearables in some way, right? Because we're tracking certain things. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends. Like anything, too much of a good thing can be bad. So one of the things that's happened recently, like last
Hmm.
year, we were having a conversation about the World Health Organization designating video game addiction to being
Mm.
an actual issue. Whereas this year, they're saying that video games are actually good for us as
Huh.
we navigate this pandemic. I think at the end of the day, because of the diversity that exists in the gaming consumers, that question is hard to answer because you have to look at what types of games and what that game requires from the player, and what that narrative is. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And there's so many different types of games out there that can impact us, that could be good for us, but too much of it could be bad for us. Like I know people who have like sort of given up their actual social lives for their virtual social lives, which isn't necessarily
Wow.
a problem
Hmm.
until it is.
Until
Until
you
like
have to go to work and go to an office.
right.
Who knows
You're
when that's going to happen? So
until yeah. So it's interesting, and I think that question needs to be broken down a little bit as to like who's the consumer, how old are they, what games are they playing, and
hmm.
how often are they playing them, and why are they playing them. There's if you're talking about a person that wants to be a pro gamer in esports, those are just a few different genres of games. Whereas if you're talking about escapism, that's different. If you're talking about there's a lot here to
Yeah.
unpack.
Well, here's a question from Age, a former Age who used to work at Vive, and he's a former colleague of mine from Magic Leap. He says, "Do you think our avatars can evolve further and develop, have strong emotional connections with one another? Will our avatars maybe mimic, be as close to our personal selves?" What are your thoughts on that? I mean, because you have quite a community in gaming. I mean, this is a deep question. What are your thoughts?
I believe that yes, I think it's creepy, but I think that shows like Westworld and aren't
Oh
necessarily
gosh, I
far
love that show.
right. They're not far off, as in once we realize how much data is out there about our lives, even if we want to be careful about the information that we put on the internet. It's like there's so much data about our personal selves that we don't even think about, that people can use to make, you know, digital versions of ourselves. That technology already exists. And we're just trying to figure out different ways to navigate it and tweak it. So, and like, what are the ethical questions that come up from that? I think that we're already there, but the reason that we're not like full stream ahead is because, like, who controls that data? Like, there's some issues there that are very horrifying to me. But we're here already. We've already, you know, big data is here. Like, we're all on the internet, especially now. We're all downloading apps, not reading the terms of agreement, signing away, right? Signing away our privacy, signing away access to our data. And so, yeah, it's here. It's here to stay. It's just a matter of who controls it, and is it ethical, and is it private?
Yeah, that's why it's important to have these types of conversations that we're having, because we bring that to light and we say, okay, we need to talk about these things, find, you know, set up best practices, figure out what the ethics are behind all this. So definitely, you know, definitely really important. We're getting some good comments. Edwin's saying, dope show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Keisha is making it awesome. So what are, you know, I always want to talk about the future, kind of what's coming. What are maybe two things that you can share that you're really excited about?
Well, yeah, virtual spaces is something that I am kind of curious about. I am excited about it too. Like, I don't get me wrong, I really do enjoy my real life spaces a lot, and I miss them. But virtual spaces is what I've been sort of immersed in for the past couple of years with live CGI. Like, what does it mean to have a virtual space, and what does it mean to have a realistic virtual space? Like, we're all like playing with our Zoom backgrounds and sort of creating and expressing ourselves with these backgrounds. But like, you know, having worked in VR, and you put on a headset and now you're in a new world, like having access to create your world is very interesting to me. What does a virtual space look like? And can we make a virtual space in which we can have more realistic engagement? Because there's for me, there's something there's something that's missing. Like, yeah, I get to talk to you right now, Kathy, in our little boxes, and I'm like, yeah, finally we're connecting. But like, there's something that I'm longing for as far as a human physical, like, I see you, you're right there, I can pat you on the shoulder. You know, there's something about that.
We can get a massage together like we did at CES, one of those massage machines.
Oh man, I dream about those massage chairs.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So backstory, guys. So I'm at CES walking the show floor. All of a sudden, you know, they have all these like massage chairs throughout CES. And I look over, it's like Keisha's in there. And I'm like, I cannot believe I ran into her. So of course, you know, you get your massage, I get my massage. That was hilarious. So
it was great. It was great.
Nothing like, I feel like in, you know, real person interaction is super important. I do feel like social VR has allowed me during this time of the pandemic to also feel a little bit closer to that. Not quite there yet, but almost there.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I mean. Like, virtual worlds are sort of starting to create situations for that longing of connection to be lessened. And so I'm really into virtual spaces and virtual expressions of ourselves. Like, what does that mean? What does that do to our brains? You know, because like, there's a continuity here that CGI can create. And I'm not sure where it explodes, right? Where it's like, that's what we needed to engage. But like, yeah, virtual environments and virtual sort of you know, avatars for ourselves that do more than just be a picture, or, you know, like, where we can just like kind of put that as our face online. It's interesting because I'm curious as to can CGI, can virtual spaces, can virtual avatars really almost take the place of real life engagement? I'm not sure. You know, I wanted to say for the longest time like an absolute no. But I'm starting to think that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there
Yeah.
are ways that we can get there. And I don't know if that's good or bad.
We'll have to see. I mean, I'm sure there's people that will say it's good, people say it's bad. But so we're getting towards the end of the program. I kind of want to make sure that folks know how to connect with you, where to find you. Like, what's the best way to connect with you?
Right now, I have a lot of information on my personal site, which
Mhm.
is gokeisha.com. And then if you are trying to, sort of understand what I'm doing in the CGI virtual space, livecgi.com. And in the community space, Sugar Gamers. So I'm trying to do a lot of work here. So, but I'm easy to find online if you just sort of Google Sugar Gamer or Sugar Gamers. I kind of pop up. If not, just follow me on the LinkedIn. I'm on social media. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say about gaming? Like anything else on your mind?
are you playing anything, Kathy?
Right now, I'm not. I'm like managing my house. You know what? No, but my latest escape was finishing. I finished it this morning. The Last Dance. I finished. It's a sports documentary
Michael
about the
Jordan.
Chicago Bulls. Yeah, Michael Jordan, of course. You're in Chicago, so
Yes.
so that's where I've spent my time. That is not related to cooking for my kids, to working, trying to find a job, because trying to find a job is a full-time job, and homeschooling my children. I mean, it's virtual school, but it's just driving me nuts. So my escape over the last couple of days, in all honesty, has been The Last Dance. So yeah. And
Are
it
you a
was funny
sports
because my
fan?
kids, I was a Michael Jordan fan just because I guess I was young during that time. So, but my kids totally would come in. They're like, "Who's this Michael Jordan dude?" And I'm like,
Oh
"Guys, it's like the
no,
most
who's
amazing
Michael
basketball
Jordan?
player." And then I said, "Space Jam." And Space Jam. Yeah, Mom, we've seen pictures of Space Jam with Bugs Bunny. And I'm like, yeah, that's Michael Jordan. So I thought that was
Nice.
really funny.
Nice.
Yeah, they were like, oh, okay, Mom, Michael Jordan. I'm like, it's Michael Jordan.
Well, when you
Anyway, but
do
you're in
get
Chicago.
yeah, so of course, like I can just wake up and live vicariously through everyone talking about The Last Dance. But when you get a box of time and you want to have another discussion about all the games that I think, can create positive vibes when you're playing them, I will be more than happy to share those titles with you, because I have lots of games that I think, can create different experiences. So if you do have a Switch, I recommend Gris, number one. So
Chris,
try
okay.
that game. Very relaxing.
We do have a Switch, and I love mystery type of games. Those sorts of
Okay.
things. So, okay, let me
All
know.
right. We're going to do this.
Thank you. We're going to do this. All right, girl. Take care. Thank you for being on Future Glimpse. And hopefully we'll have you back in a couple months and talk more about the cool stuff you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.